Welcome to CISO's Insiders Podcast, powered by GRC Consulting. In this podcast, we'll be interviewing leading CISOs and security leaders in the industry for light, eye-level conversations. Here, they share advice and tips, talk about their biggest accomplishments and failures, favorite drinks, key influencers, and much more. We encourage you to walk away with at least one insight that will help you better yourself or your business. Thank you for joining us, and we hope you enjoyed today's episode. For more content, please check us out on social media.
Hello, everybody. Today I'm speaking with Zach Mitcham. Zach is the CISO of North Carolina Central University. He's been in that role since 2017. And looking back at your bio, I see you served an extensive term in the U.S. Army as an officer. And I see that once you got you were out of the Army, you started your career as in the networking area, in the networking space, then moving up to all kinds of other positions. The most current one is the seat of the CISO. As I mentioned, I see you have a lot of experience here. I mean, I think it would be best if you could step in and introduce yourself.
Yes, I'm Zachary Mitcham. I'm Chief Information Security Officer for North Carolina Central University. And as Ben said, I did serve in the United States Army for 20 years as an infantry officer, and my functional areas was information technology is what it's come to be called. But I've got over 16 years of direct application information security information and training and higher education from teaching on the platform. I've also have over 40 years of general security practices starting from 1981 when I first came into the military, and specifically became CISO type. They didn't call it CISO, as information security system security officer in 1994. So that's where I come from. The days before distributed computing, they were standalones and old computers. I'm an old head.
Yeah. And mainframe and AS400 and token networks and all kinds of
Univac 1004 and all that.
Yeah. Okay. And again, thank you for making the time for this. Excited to be speaking to you. And before we dive right into the questions that I shared with you beforehand, I always like to start off with a couple of icebreakers here. If there's anything you can share about your marital status and your favorite drink.
Well, yeah, I'm married. I have my wife's name is Angela, and I have two children. I have a daughter. It's interesting that our birthdays are all in the same month. Specifically, my daughter's birthday is January 17th, and she'll be 46 years old. And the interesting thing about my son, his birthday is an invert of mine. I was born in 1985. I mean, 19. No, yeah, okay.
Yeah, I was a bit surprised there for a minute.
I was born before my son, right? No, but I was born in January 1958, and he was born in January 85. We just celebrated an invert. We have inverted dates, like I was 63, he was 36, and that's pretty interesting. But I have two grandchildren, one 14 and one 13. Oh, and my favorite drink is Welch's grape juice. I drink that stuff like water. The doctor tells me
really?
I should obey. I just love it. Welch's grape juice is my favorite drink.
Got it. I mean, we started the conversation around coffee, and now we're talking about grape juice. Okay, I don't think I've heard that one, but okay, interesting, definitely. I mean, not your typical CISO favorite drink,
No, well,
that would be a lot.
When I was CISO, I guess it's vodka and orange juice, but no, I don't drink. So a regular CISO would be drinking rum straight because of all the things he has to deal with. Yeah. But no,
I think the drink of choice nowadays is either bourbon or whiskey. But
exactly.
Yeah. Well, great, and thank you for sharing. Let's dive right in. The intent of this podcast is basically to put you on the spotlight and to learn more about you and your path as a CISO and in the industry in general. And whatever questions I ask you is basically around yourself, about yourself. It's not specifically about technology. It's not specifically about your company or your current position. It's more, I'm trying to get to get more insight into the mind of the CISO, if that makes sense. So let's get going. If there's one thing you wish you had known when you began your career, what would that be?
Everything that I know now, right? It's like the Minority Report. It's not even fair. Because just like this pandemic we're going through right now, it's discovery. They don't really know what they don't know. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And the same thing holds true with my position. When we started out, I started out by saying it came about as a collaborative computing environment. It was not a requirement for passwords, right? So the things that were true in the past are no longer the case. I came in before that was distributed computing. And so with the Morris worm in 1988, introduced vulnerabilities, and we started changing the paradigm from being open and collaborative to, oh my God, we got to shut this thing down. If we're thinking about the far-reaching benefits of using this technology, we couldn't have thought about using banking online during that time frame as an example, right? Because there was no lockdown mechanism. There was no password type of environment back in the 80s. So the things that I wish I know, I wish I knew, the things that I came to find out is discovery. And to this day, in earnest, we're still learning, right?
Yeah,
So,
of course, all the time. And I mean, I'm speaking to a lot of CISOs, a lot of veterans in the industry, and I mean, you'd be surprised at the amount of unknowns and the humbling feeling of most CISOs I'm speaking to, because no one really thinks that they know everything there is to know, and everybody knows that there's a lot of things that we don't really know. And as we push forward to go about and securing our organizations and learning more, we just find so many vulnerabilities, so many new holes every time. I mean, day and again, day in and day
think
out.
about it. Log4j, right? Who knew, right?
Yeah, that's
So
one
that's
of their
my
most
life.
recent. Yeah,
Exactly. We learn something every single day, right?
definitely. If you could, and I know I see you had an extensive career so far. If there's one thing that you could pin as your biggest failure, and what did you learn from it, what would that be?
Okay, as I transitioned from a very regimented environment in the military where we locked everything down, and I didn't get questioned about that, I transitioned into corporate America. And the biggest flaw or challenge I had was to be able to convey the security message without appearing to be an inhibitor to the success of an organization, instead of being considered Dr. No. Oh man, that doesn't make sense. We can't do that. It's not secure. We don't have the bandwidth for that. And if you do this, it'll be opening us up to us. And then that sort of gave me a bad reputation around the enterprise, and I had to change that whole situation around, because people in the military understood the idea of loose lip sync ships, right? Security. Everybody thinks about security, passwords, passphrases, challenges. So that was the environment I came from. But going into a enterprise, non-governmental organizations, that was my biggest challenge. I wouldn't say a failure. It was just a challenge I had to change. And it was pretty much a failure in the sense that I didn't understand the language of corporate America. And it all came down to the dollar, right? So I learned quickly. And so I guess the thing I learned about that was diplomacy, and how to be correct, and how I approach the message as an evangelist, security evangelist, and let people know if we're going to accept risk or transfer risk, or how are we going to do it as it benefits the organization without being an inhibitor to our trying to get what we're trying to accomplish.
Yeah. And that's I mean, I'm very familiar with that mindset of veterans and previously served officers in the army, both here and in Israel as well, where I'm from. But I think, I mean, at the end of the day, an army, any military is, deals with the business of risk management and risk transfer. You only have so much forces, you only have so much assets, right? So it just, I mean, I guess I'm a bit puzzled to the reasons why. I mean, would you say that if there was someone in your position, leaving the military nowadays, would they have the same, difficulties in shifting mindset?
If they were transitioning, because fortunately for us, like I said, it's highly regimented. It's the same way for 200 plus years.
Yeah.
Okay. So a private back in 200 years ago or more would understand what a private's going through today, because we learn and build from our mistakes, and we lock them down even more. So it's not something that a civilian would even understand unless their life depended on it. And it's a life or death situation in the military. It's not something you can compromise. A security password, we would never write that down. Are you kidding me? That's a special kind of stupid to do that, right? Because your life could be at stake. If it's compromised, you could compromise the whole mission, right? Get everybody killed. So,
yeah, that's an easy example, of course.
Yeah, and that's the way we approach things in the military. It's loose lips, the most famous one, loose lips sink ships.
Yeah.
But that came back in World War II, right? So the same thing holds true to this day. You have to have a security mindset. So yes, the challenges that those people on active duty transitioning would have the same issues that I had, or challenges coming into a non-governmental organization.
Okay. Thank you for sharing that. Having spoken about what your perceived failure, what would you say your biggest accomplishment was?
Well, it has nothing to do with my career field or my subject matter expertise skill set. It's about raising my family, man. I mean, coming from humble beginnings, having to figure it out, starting out as a young man, and here I am, 64 years old now, about to become 64, and looking back at what my family looks like today. That's my biggest accomplishment. I've been married over 40 years, going on 40 years. I have children 40 years. You see what I'm saying? So that's my biggest accomplishment. A lot of my colleagues aren't married anymore. Children are going crazy. My children all did great. Both of them have master's degrees. My son graduated from an Ivy League school. I couldn't ask for a better family. My wife is perfect. She's beautiful. And she's hot too. So,
well,
that helped, right?
Yeah, certainly a refreshing answer. Thank you for that. Looking at the younger listeners out there, or anyone actually wanting to pursue a career of of a CISO or any career in the cybersecurity space, what advice would you give them?
That movie Firewall with Harrison Ford. I don't know if you saw that movie, but if you look at it, it's pretty sexy. They live a very cloak and dagger environment, and they got a lot of money. That's fantasy. That's not what it is. I would encourage them to learn as much as they can about their skill set. And the fallacy is that you have to be a technological genius or technician to pull it off as a CISO. You pretty much have to know the basics. You have to speak the language, know the programming and all of that. But my position doesn't require me to be on the keyboard anymore. At this level, I'm dealing with more people and translating the goals and objectives in the boardroom with the board of trustees, reporting to senior vice presidents, the CIO, that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. So if I had to tell somebody, I'd tell them buckle up and get ready to enjoy the ride, because the way I learned it, it was out of a water hose. You had to sink or swim or sink, learn as much and pursue certificates, not just because you should have them to check a block, but to help you in your expertise and keep you relevant and current about the things that are happening. A lot of people get these certificates and certifications like CISSP to check the block. I'm not envious of that. I have certifications as well, but these are certifications that are needed in order to accomplish my mission, my job. But just don't get the certification to check the block, because you will be called on it if you need it to execute your level of expertise in that field.
Yeah, and I think there are two school of thoughts about certificates and compliance in general. There's, that school of thought of a lot of CISOs out there that are very against all these certifications, and those are that are very pro. I personally, I think certifications, for the most part, they do equip you with some kind of added value and additional skills. That's my personal opinion on that. So I do agree with you on that.
Well, so much that it's a point in time. If you had a CISSP back in the 80s, what good would that do you now if you didn't stay relevant? That's why I like the process that they have, that you have to maintain so many CEUs to be relevant and up to date. Unlike a degree, though, if you had a computer science degree in the 60s, it's not relevant. And there's no requirement for you to stay current. It's a discipline that you have to stay current if you want to understand the current challenges that degree entails. But there was not too much computing going on in the 60s, but there was computing, but it's not the same as it is today. So
for sure,
they have their place, but you have to understand the place. You need to know that what was good back then is not relevant anymore. And if you didn't stay current, it's of no consequence. It doesn't serve you any good.
Yeah. And you spoke a bit about your some of the work that you're doing at the boardroom, and let's talk a bit about the role of the CISO. And as you know, some of the CISOs out there report to an IT type of function, others report to a different leadership role. In your opinion, what are the pros and cons of a CISO that's a part of the IT organization?
Well, one of the pros is I work with a lot of intelligent information technologists, right? And one of the cons is I work with a lot of intelligent technologists. So there are pros and cons with the exact same thing. When you work with information technologists and people at the high end and intelligence, computer scientists and that kind of thing, they tend to play stump the chump, right? I don't know if you understand what I mean by stump the chump, right? You're always having to prove yourself instead of saying, listen, guys, this isn't about me and knowing what I know. This is about securing the most important thing in our environment. That's our data. It's not about how much I know, where I went to school, any of that. It's about how we secure our data. So the pros is working with those high-end security people, and the cons are working with them. But one of the things is having to run interference for people that don't have an appreciation for what you do, and having to bite your lip when they don't agree or they have made a decision that could prove to be fatal. Case in point was the breach at Target. I don't know if you're familiar with that breach, right?
Yeah, of course. That was a huge PCI breach of credit card information.
Exactly.
15 years ago, 12 years ago.
This is the catch. They did an information, it's pretty funny, but it's not. It's very serious. And this is what I'm confronted with a lot of times. Not so much in my current job. I pretty much see eye to eye with the CIO. But they hired a company, FireEye, to come in and do an assessment. And after the assessment, they got breached. And they tried to charge it to FireEye. And the guy was on 60 Minutes, and he said, they posed a question. They said, what good are you? I mean, they came in, you guys did an assessment, and the guy said, frankly, well, you have to do what we recommended in order to be successful and secure. And they didn't do any of it. So their endpoint point of sales devices were vulnerable. They explained that. They told them that. And they didn't take care of it. And lo and behold, they had one of the largest breaches in the country. And as a result of it, the CEO was fired, right? Occupational hazard. So you got to adhere, not to just, like I said, not to check the block. We had a security assessment. Okay, now what are you going to do about it? How are you going to implement there's a security debt associated with you just pushing things off, right? And that debt gonna come due, and there's a cost of it, and you unfortunately suffer the consequences of not paying your debt or investing in the right things to get it corrected. So that's one of the biggest challenges.
Yeah, I agree. Talking about your day-to-day, what would you say are the best resources that that you utilize to help you with your daily routine and in general?
Okay, my work ethic, right? Being disciplined and understanding the things that are required to do what I do on an everyday basis. And I learned that in the military. Is every day up at 6, do physical training, do this, and it's step by step, and I consider it a blessing because repetitiveness makes you relevant and competent. I told my team, you need to give me at least one thing you complete every single day, and out of that one thing, you have 5 things a week. And out of 5 things a week, you got 52, 52 weeks, right? So when time for evaluation, you got over, 2,500 things you could talk about. And just that simplistic. If you don't come to work and do one thing in a day, you're useless, right? So I tell them, I want you, yeah, okay. What are you going to do today? I don't know. I'm just coming to work. Really? Are you kidding me? That don't work for me. So I got the 3 C's. And it's called competence, the first C. And when you're confident, you become competent, right? Because you're confident, you are competent, and it makes you confident that you know what you're talking about. And in doing that, the final C, you become comfortable, that you're the smartest person in the room about your subject matter. Colby is a guy that wrote a book about the 4 executions of discipline. I suggest your audience gets that, called the 4 disciplines of execution. And it talks about how to establish goals and objectives and not just stay busy for the sole purpose of being busy. People are busy, but they're not accomplishing anything, right?
Wow. Don't get me started on that, yeah.
So it's just like going into a Burger King or, they just wiping the table down. Dude, you've been there for 3 hours. What are you doing? Go somewhere and do something. You have to appear busy, right? But you're not moving the envelope. You're not accomplishing anything. And therein lies the problem.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you on all sort of levels here that we don't have the time to explore into that, but yeah, running a business, you can imagine, I understand exactly what you mean, especially when just occupying your time with operational stuff whereas you can spend your time doing more valuable stuff. So
that's right.
Definitely. Is there one common myth about our profession or field that you wanted to debunk?
Well, again, that you have to be a subject matter expert in everything technical, right? Some of the best CISOs that I've run into, they're business people. They have MBAs. They understand the role of the CISO as it pertains to communicating a message for the viability of the company and conveying security assets that are needed to do that, right? And the common myth is that I have to be a computer scientist to do that. And they put all these, I don't know who wrote these, what do you call them, job descriptions, right? They have all these computer science degrees. And I said, dude, that's not it at all. What does computer science have to do with locking a door or a man trap, or setting a man trap, or making sure that the hedges are such that around the building, as people don't climb into windows? That has nothing to do with computer scientists. But that's one of the domains of the 8 domains of security, physical security, right? So do computer scientists deal with physical security? There's no, I mean, they don't need to, right? They don't do physical security. Do they do e-discovery? No. See, so you don't really have to be, do you understand what I'm saying? You don't have to be a technological genius to be a CISO. I deal with so many other things. That's one aspect of the many that I deal with, from the keyboard to the boardroom, right? Again, I had to come up with a plan for e-discovery, and they're still using that process in the university system in North Carolina right now, because in 2006, there was not one. They used to do discovery with paper, and everything was dealing with paper. They put it in a file locker or a physical letter. Now everything's electronic. Now you got to deal with email. So before 2006, there was no standards for establishing e-discovery with the electronically stored information, right? And so that wouldn't help you if you were a computer scientist dealing with e-discovery. That's legal stuff. That's law, and how we interact with attorneys and general counsel, right?
Yeah.
So it's a multivariate discipline that requires a lot of the skill sets other than technology.
Yeah.
Now, my whole thing is a programmer, to me, makes some of the best security people because they understand what the vulnerabilities associated with the threat, right? And so that's just something to build on. But I have people to do those CVE scans on a daily basis, right? So I don't get involved with that, and they bring it to our attention like we did with the Log4j, like I'm saying, and we approach it as an enterprise. They don't know how to, what those ramifications are for the business. They're just telling us this is what is affected and how it could affect it. And then we're taking it to the next level on what will we do in terms of risk, accept it, transfer it, control it, mitigate it, whatever we're going to do with this found exploit, right? So, found vulnerability. So it protects us from the exploit.
Yeah. So I think the transition that you're talking about mostly revolve around the fact that CISOs nowadays are much more a business role than it used to be.
Yeah.
And you, for that, in order to be a successful CISO, you don't need to have, bachelor degree or master's in computer science. You don't have that. You don't need to do that. You don't need to have that. You need to have business skills. You need to be able to translate the business needs into your own roadmaps and support the organization rather than know how to hack or to code.
Exactly. And don't get me wrong. There's a place for knowing and understanding language. I can't go into an environment where I need to speak Arabic and I can't communicate. That makes no sense. I have to at least know the language, and that's what a background in computer science comes in. I have to speak the language. Once I learn the language, I have a whole different approach to how I use that language to accomplish my goal.
Yeah, agreed. Moving on, what would you say are the main concerns that a CISO nowadays have in general?
Dealing with an apathetic, illiterate, uninformed customer base or end user. Seriously, there's 6 major components of information systems, right? And they're hardware, software, network communications, data, processes, and procedures and regulations. And then the last one is the weakest link, people. Now think about it. How many breaches are a result of people?
100%, I would say.
See, because whether you misconfigure something in the cloud or your workloads are misconfigured, whether it had to have a person to have done that, right? Yeah. Whether you have a security breach from somebody giving up your information from an insider, that's a human being. Whether somebody clicked in an offer saying somebody from Israel is sending you $1 million, click this link. Come on, are you serious? So my biggest thing is having to educate these people to get an appreciation that said, look, when you do this, you're messing up the organization, because that $1 million that they're going to have to pay in the ransom will probably affect your job, and you're going to have to get cut. That money is not free. So the number of people that click on these links, some FTEs got to leave the company now. as a result of your being cavalier about it. Let's click the link and the thing goes. Here we are in the twilight zone, right? Yeah, that's what I have to deal with. Apathy, people, they're the weakest link.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And so, but it's my challenge and my job is to get them an appreciation and teach them on how to be more secure. You know, organization that's pervasive, where security is pervasive, the culture of security is pervasive in everything that we do, like the military. Everybody knows you got to know the password. Come on. And you never write it down. That's basics.
I think I had a computer instructor at one point who told us the following phrase: the computer blindly follows the mistake of the person that, you know, that wrote the code, basically. The program.
Without question, yeah. It's human error. Every last one pieces is human error.
Yeah. What would you say are the areas CISOs nowadays should be most focused on?
Well, I think they should be focused on not so much being myopic, tunnel vision, right? But look at the whole landscape of what's coming, how we approach it, not be like Chicken Little, the sky's falling, or Peter and the Wolf, the boy that cried wolf, and there was no wolf. So you get a reputation for, hey, Zach is a guy that's going to shoot it to you straight. We better listen to him. Because if you ever go out doing that and your reputation is tarnished, nobody will pay attention to you. And they'll go outside of the organization to get information that they have right there in-house. So the biggest thing is look inwardly on what your vulnerabilities are and work from inside out. Most times your vulnerabilities are right there in front of you. Not so much technological, like people are running around with Spectre and Meltdown. I don't know if you remember that. Whatever happened to that? It's the flavor of the day. So every time you turn around, it's the flavor of the day. And people get tired of that and they do become more apathetic and cavalier about it, right? And so, yeah, you don't want to focus so much on security, you know, just relationships and dealing with people and learning more. Hey, man, did you hear about this? Did you hear about that? And you'd be surprised. Your reputation building your reputation will help you in translating your message to higher and lower, from the least of these to the greatest, right?
Yeah. And I believe you already answered my next question about the most important skills CISOs should have. I mean, we know for a fact that's not a technology background. Did you want to add anything to that? Because I feel that you already answered that. Okay,
well, you can always have ability to convey information in such a way as not to be condescending. Man, you're stupid. Are you kidding me? Why would you write down your password? You idiot. You laugh, Ben, but I'm telling you, people talk to each other like that, if you can believe it, right? The person already
I can believe it. I believe it.
The person already feels bad that they clicked the link, right? So they got these different, like, I'm going to put on a plug for the company. It's called EC Council Aware. And then they got one called Know Before, that once you click the link, you know, it gives you education, that kind of thing.
But the anti-phishing and awareness.
Exactly. Yeah. So the ability to, you know, communicate with people and treat them with some kind of sense of empathy. You know, I understand you're stupid. You can't do anything about it, but no, you wouldn't do it that way. But, you know, don't treat people with disrespect, you know, and you'll be surprised at how much you can get from your, because just like we said, the 100% answer is the people as being the problem. So I need them. They're my biggest asset. So,
yeah, and I think
my biggest challenge.
I think that advice of you know, treating people with respect, that goes you know, it's even wider than just being a CISO or working in this space. In your opinion, if we look at like 5 years down the road, where do you see the CISO role is going to?
Well, it's ever evolving. It's ever evolving. Like I said, it's not like a doctor, a professor of a doctor. It's pretty much set in stone what doctors do. It's not like an engineer, based on principles of laws, of ohms, and it's set in stone. Like I said, starting off in the 80s, it evolved from the open collaboration to, total shutdown and lockdown. But it's going to be more of a, evangelistic like it is now, more of a consulting, more of a interaction with teaching and training, technical staff, building technical staff that the correct recipe. I need one of these. I need one of those. I don't need this. And to lure those people with great talent to do certain functions within the organization specifically, just like a football team. Now, you got to have an appreciation for the big guys that protect the quarterback. A lot of people don't know. If you don't have them, you're not going to have a good team. It starts with the foundation and the wide receiver and the quarterback. And everybody has a different role to play, and they have to enjoy doing it. And then to give them an opportunity, if they so choose, to go laterally or upward in the organization. So you build more CISOs. It took 40 years to build me, just like a general officer. You don't just go and get a general officer. That's 30 years of training to create a general officer, right? You just can't go pick up a guy off the street and say, hey, you're going to be our CISO. Really? Well, he was the #1 graduate at Harvard. He doesn't know about 40 years of what it took to be a CISO. He's smart and he's a computer scientist, but what does that got to do with learning how to deal with the police when it comes to the Clery Act? Yeah, because it took that knowledge that I know to help the police in doing what they do, the lawyers in doing what they do, the environmental health and safety people do what they do, the auditors, all of these are different relationships that the CISO has to be a hybrid to be able to speak all those different languages, right? But a guy coming right out of school, he went, who do I talk to about this? The public affairs officer, the National Incident Management System, NIMS, NIST 861 that deals with incident handling, or, information risk management with the ISO 31000, security programs, how to develop a viable security program with ISO 27002, 1 and 2. Mm-hmm. See, all that is, I'm speaking conversely about it, but that stuff has to be in you. You just can't gloss over it. You got to know exactly the depth of it and where they all fit in, right?
Yeah, you can just brain dump that into someone.
No.
Yeah, of course.
No, you got to have, this is coming over time. And so as you build that, you might want to build a curriculum called CISO. A friend of mine, it became a friend of mine. He was an instructor of mine at Stanford Center for Professional Development. His name's Neil Daswani. And he was a very interesting person. He said he went to Stanford for all those years, and he's got a computer science degree, and he never took one course in computer security. Mm-hmm. So he decided to create the curriculum. And now you got the Stanford Center for Professional Development that creates certificates in computer security. In that introspective, though, the way he saw that, he said, now look, I went to one of the best engineering schools in the world, and I never took a course in information security. That's a problem. Now you can get an information security course in basically any university out there, right? You see what I'm saying? So it's ever evolving. And that's just recently. I mean, he created the course in the 2000s, but 2007. But just recently, you couldn't even get an information. They just stood up to cybersecurity. Department of Homeland Security has a cybersecurity division, right? Yeah. That's recent. That's not like 1980. That's 2015, right? So yeah, you got to stay current, man. You got to stay up on it.
So I see we have time for a couple more questions here. Let me see if I can get those right. In your opinion, what will we see in the information security or cybersecurity world next?
Okay, the more advanced, you remember we're the Internet of Things, right? IP version 4, right? It's getting exhausted. I mean, so we're running out of IP addresses. We thought, now this is arrogance right here. Well, we have enough IP addresses to the end of time. Who worries about 2000? We'll never make it to 2000. So 1999, you don't need to put in error handler for 1999. And then we thought the world was going to come to an end when 2000 came around, right? And so you remember the Y2K?
Yeah, of course. I was doing all kinds of patch projects.
But do you
at the time.
understand? You understand the arrogance in that way of thinking?
Mm-hmm.
So it's the same thing with IP addresses. Now we're running out. So now we go to IP version 6, where there are trillions of IP addresses. And now we're putting things all around security. So the whole point that I'm trying to make is AI, artificial intelligence, and robotics is going to play a bigger role in security on both sides. The hackers aren't stupid, right? They already doing robo hacking. I mean, for rainbow tables and all that. You don't have an individual in there with a keyboard trying to hack a password, right? They put like Cain and Abel is a algorithm, right? That's trying to hack a password, off crack, all that. Those are code crackers, right? And so as those become more nuisance, because, you know, if you get 5 failed logins, you got the clipping cycle is like 5 and you lock them out. They get robotics now. They even got commercials about robotics on these. They said, who needs more robots, right? I don't know if you've seen the commercial, but it's pretty funny. Look for it. That talks about robots dealing with hacking and coming into intelligent machines. And just like you said, they're just as smart as the people that program. So machine learning, machine identity to identity machine, zero trust, understanding how we deal with IAM and zero trust, identity access management. And so the evolution of hacking will be a very interesting thing, and how we combat it. It's like building a better mousetrap or fuzz. You remember how you used to speed on the highway? You know, you used to drive at least 100 miles an hour, but you had a fuzz buster, right? But now the police have gotten smarter, and they got radar that can pick you up at farther distance. So you're constantly trying to stay ahead of the criminal, right? It's almost like the Minority Report. So that's the future. More automated systems on both sides, the red side and the blue, trying to keep them out of your environment. Artificial intelligence.
Okay, thank you for that. I wanted to ask you one question about vendors. What would you say the best way, the best strategy a vendor should employ in order to connect with the CISO out there?
Just be honest. I mean, you know, think about it. How many people you think can pull the wool over my eyes? I'm just serious. On a cold call. You know, are you kidding me right now? That's not how I do business. And so that won't work with me. Just be honest. I asked a question from one of the largest vendors in the United States and the world. I said, suppose I had an inexhaustive, budget for IT security, and I could buy any product, every product in your inventory, every service. Would you guarantee that my company wouldn't get a breach? What do you think his answer was?
No.
No. Okay, Ben, I just told you I gave this dude $1 trillion and I still can get a breach. Are you kidding me right now? So the approach you should take is say, listen, let me get a baseline on where you are with your security program and help you get better, right? And these are the products I have that can help you get better, because there's nothing that's going to prevent any of that as long as you got a human element involved, whether it's inside or external. Is that fair? And let me just put yours in comparison with this one, or mine in comparison with yours, or mine in comparison with my competition. And let the CISO decide, right? And the value added with that honesty, I'm going to give you a shot because you told me the truth. But a lot of the stuff people are telling people are just straight up lies, and they end up moving to different companies. Some of the best companies maintain their people for long periods of time, and they build, like I said, a relationship. those that every 2 years you see a new vendor, something's wrong, right? I don't know how you would view that, but I'm like, wait a minute. What happened to Andrew? What happened to Ben? Where is such and such? That's the way I used to do business, and it's more and more these days, they don't stay around long, right? I don't know if that's the industry's changed or if that's the way of the world, but have you noticed that they only stay around 1 to 2 years and that's it? They move to another company.
Yeah, I have. I mean, I think it's just the way the industry is right now, especially with COVID and people understanding, that they want better work-life balance, and a lot of
Yeah.
them just try to, move away and work remotely. And I think it's, I think the ecosystem as a whole is changing right now. But I think
You don't think it's value in having relationships though?
I think that's the only value that you could have, like building relationships, long-term relationships. That's what I'm all about. That's what I'm doing day in and day out. And I think that's the only thing that can actually serve you in the long run. So even if you're a sales person and you move from one company to another, you would want to, keep your personal relationships with your previous customers, because at the end of the day, it's all about people, both the bad and the good, right? Okay, I see we are almost out of time, and I want to be respectful for your time. Let me see if I could just sneak in a couple more questions here. We've spoken about vendors a bit. Just other people that you look up to and people that have been most influential to you, if you care to share that.
Okay, well, again, it has nothing to do with the industry because a lot of the people in the industry, we grew together, right?
Yeah.
But I'm a Christian, and that's my faith. So I look up to my Lord for what He did for me, and the people, my mother and my father that raised me. I looked up to them for the guidance they gave me, even though my father only had a 3rd grade education. My mother had a 12th grade education. She eventually went on to get a bachelor's degree, but given humble beginnings, they were able to exceed and provide. Like my baby sister now, she's the COO for Underwriters Laboratory, and we came from a very poor environment. Right? How does that happen? I even asked my mother. I said, "Mother, how could you take care of 12 children with a salary $6 a day?" Right?
12? Oh my God.
Well, it was 10 of us plus my father and my mother. And she said, well, and this was a simple answer. She said, my mother dealt with 12, so I figured I could do 10. I said, okay, $6 a day, right? Okay. But some of the people in the industry, though, Dr. David Harris, he worked with DARPA. That's the defense agency that deals with projects that dealt with DARPANet. He was influential, David Harris. He's a very smart guy. I learned a lot from him in a collaborative sense. I never worked for him. I worked with him on a lot of things. He's a very interesting person. But those people, my faith is my foundation. That's the crux of the matter, man. Because if I hadn't had the kind of encouragement from my mother and father to pursue my faith, there would be no Zach Mitcham in IT. That's for sure. I was in a stupor state as far as knowing where I was going. Right. Then I ended up in Uncle Sugar, so I got to give him some love. Uncle Sam, I got to give him some love because he kind of groomed me and turned me out. And in that is several people in the military that helped me along the way. So,
well, that's very inspiring, I have to say. What's the best way our listeners can connect with you online? Is that LinkedIn?
LinkedIn is fine.
And how do you spell your profile over there? Because I think I looked
Mitcham Z, Mitchamz, Zachary Mitcham, Zachery, Mitcham, Mitcham. And if they just Google that, they can see everything they need to know about me. I'm interested in helping and mentoring people. So yeah.
Got it.
And it all comes back around. You got people that I'm kind of I guess haughty and proudful when it comes to this, but if I could get more people like me, I'd be in great shape because I'm perfect, right? No, seriously though, if I had more people in my industry that have the kind of understanding that I have, I think we'd be better off, because I think the respect that you give people and the way you interact and collaborate, it'll come back in the long run 100-fold, I think.
Yeah. Let me take this opportunity to thank you for taking the time and jumping on this episode of today's CISO's Insiders. I enjoyed speaking with you, and hopefully we could, keep in touch in the near future.
Equally a pleasure. It was my honor, and I appreciate your invitation and having me on. Thank you very much.
Thank you.